All right, so we're going to talk about a lot of fun things today. Um, being your own bank. Have you guys heard that before, first of all? And then how does that sound to you? Does it sound fun? Does it sound like something you want to do? Probably not, right? Okay, exactly. Um, I think our industry is full of a lot of terms and phrases that people throw around: being your own bank, not your keys, not your crypto. And we'll talk a little bit more about this, but what I'm going to get into is the reality of these things is not as simple as the phrase comes out. Like, you tell someone to be their own bank, but what the heck does that mean? Like, what do I have to do in order to do that? A little bit about me. I love crypto. I've worked in this space for a really long time, so anything I say that is maybe somewhat not favorable, just take it with a grain of salt. I've just been doing this probably far too long. The key points are that usability and security are going to be critical to onboard, the next million users that we have. It'll also be critical to keeping the users that we have and being able to offer them more advanced products. Yeah, same thing around like face value. The basically, if someone's telling you to be your own bank, what they want is for you to hold your funds and not necessarily give it to somebody else. The question that I would encourage everyone to think about is that really like the best case? Are you really equipped to do that and to think through that? And when we talk about security and keeping your assets safe and keeping yourself safe, those are the main questions that you need to ask. I'm fully capable of being my own bank. I'm also very different probably from all of you. Some of you might be fully capable of being your own bank. Some of you are absolutely not, and you probably shouldn't, and you should probably use a third-party custodian, and that is okay. I think I've built custody before several times. I've built disaster recovery for custody another several times. I find it very hard, and I find it very complex. I imagine the mass of the general pop probably has no idea what's going on, and that's okay. Anyway, hopefully what we discussed today is helpful for you. You can think through some things, and you can come up with your own personal security model for yourself. That would be the goal. And you can continue to do fun things in crypto and grow and learn, but in the safest way possible. And that's pretty much what I try to do at my job and anywhere else. Whatever you want to do, I think it's great, and I'm here to help you do that as safely as you can. All right, so I am currently the Chief Information Security Officer for Robinhood Crypto. What does that mean? I oversee the security program for Robinhood's crypto business. There's a lot to do there. As I said, I have a lot of experience building custody. I specialize in product security, architecture, and design. So I'm very big on user experience. How can we get the users, whether they're an internal user, an employee, or somebody like you, to do the right thing no matter what and make that as easy as possible for them. So I think design, user experience, relating to your users, very, very important. I advise various startups and VC firms on these topics at different stages, depending on where they're at. I also am pretty active in the Web3 community. I'm a member of Sunrise Art Club, where we advocate for equal opportunity in the space for a number of different artists. I also have a patent for artists to be able to digitally sign their own artwork, and I made my little baby called Tantamount Labs. For that, it's a tool. Artists can go in and generate a public-private key pair and then be able to digitally sign their artwork on chain through a watermark that makes it so that it doesn't alter the artwork, but you have that integrity on chain. You can find me on Twitter in my own little corners of the universe, but yeah, that's just a little bit about me. Also, these views don't reflect Robinhood. They are mine and mine only. All right, cool. So let's talk about like actual custody. Unlike TradFi, custody in crypto, you, the user, are responsible for keeping all of your assets safe. When you look at the big picture, when banks fail, there's a chance that all the users can lose their money. The upside to crypto is that if there is a banking crisis, users would still have control of their money, and that's, I think, what is so attractive about it. The other flip side to that I don't think we talk enough about is that, yes, there may be a banking crisis going on. we might be able to maintain access to our money. But what about all the other times where so many things can go wrong, and because you and you alone are responsible, you could also lose your money? There's a million other ways you can lose money that doesn't necessarily happen in TradFi. You lose some money in TradFi, you can call and be like, that wasn't me. This was your fault. There's probably somebody to blame. Again, being your own bank, it's your fault, most likely. You aren't going to have somebody to help you. There's probably not going to be support to talk you through what you did wrong and how you did it. So it's really you and you alone. And I think a lot of this gets conflicted because we want users to have self-custody, and I think self-custody is great, but we're not really, as an industry, I don't think we're equipping them to be able to do that long term. I think the tech is too hard to understand. I think the barrier to entry is really high. I think the products that we have are not easy to use. They're not intuitive. And it brings higher risks to investors. So let's break down what retail custody looks like. So you have self-custody. User has sole possession of their keys. There's no third-party involvement. These could be online or offline wallets. Some examples of these would include Robinhood wallet, Coinbase wallet, MetaMask. There's various others. You can also have physical devices that are stored offline. But basically, you're responsible for your wallet creation, your key storage, any distribution that you may or may not do. And when you think about that, let's say you have a bank account, right? You can designate a beneficiary. And some third-party, we'll talk about third-party in a second, but some third-party custodians will let you do that. When you and you alone are responsible for this, how are you going to give your spouse or your kid or somebody else access to your funds? If you have wallets, is that something that you've thought about regularly? Oh, if something happens to me, how would my family or somebody else that I want get this money? I actually advised on a case where, unfortunately, someone passed away, had a ton of money in crypto. His partner had no idea how to even access it. Like, you don't want to call me in that situation. Like, you don't want to get to that point. You don't ever want to have to call me. If you have to call me, it's a very bad day. I don't want that for anyone in this room. She was unable to figure it out, didn't really know what was going on. In the meantime, like in that time period, ended up getting scammed because she was being targeted because her spouse had passed away, and there was an assumption, an adversary out there had a reason to believe that he had a large amount of crypto. She ended up giving over a lot of information that allowed them to take full control of the self-custody wallets. Just a scenario for you to think through, as you custody assets yourself. You should have a plan, and other people, typically, the things that you don't think about because they're already done for you now become very prevalent with this. Third-party custody, you can use somebody, again, like a Coinbase, a Robinhood, a Kraken, another exchange. We will hold your crypto for you. We manage the keys. We are responsible for backing it up. We give you options for beneficiaries if you would like to. We offer a lot of the same things that a bank is going to offer you with your bank account. With that, you don't have control over your assets. If any of these parties become illiquid or not able to fulfill your withdrawal request, your money would be gone. It's a very similar model to a bank. You're also responsible for like your login and your credentials. So similar Web 2 security threats are going to apply here, whether you're phished, scammed, things like that. So you're kind of already looking out for things that you normally look out for. Like, hey, I got a weird email, I'm not gonna click it, et cetera, et cetera. On-chain is also, it's a more advanced option. I think if you're doing a lot of trading, your assets are gonna be stored in a smart contract. You can use something like a Gnosis safe. And then there's other contracts you can put funds into. Usually, the keys to that are going to be secured by a multi-sig scheme. I won't get too into it, but sometimes one person has all those multi-sigs. And it's just going to be a higher risk for compromise. Personal opinion here. I think given the custody models that we have, I don't think we would be able to onboard the next billion users. I don't think we're able to balance usability with security. I think these wallets are hard to manage. They're hard to maintain information. If you ask a regular person, would you ever write your password down on a piece of paper and store it somewhere safely? They're going to tell you no. that's what we're essentially asking people to do with a seed phrase. Go ahead and write this really important mnemonic down. Don't lose it, and keep it at your house. It's ridiculous. It's crazy. It doesn't make any sense. Fully aware of that. Unless you know how to manage that seed phrase, there's a lot of things you could also do. And if you have questions, I'm happy to answer. You can put things in a safety deposit box. You can break it up. There's a number of ways to store this safely if you want to do that. But asking the mass population to go and do that and expecting the industry to grow and to be able to onboard users, I think is frankly ridiculous. So that purist model, which I use the purist model. I am a purist when it comes to security and when it comes to crypto. I fully realize, though, that does not work for the vast majority of people, and it doesn't really work outside of even a small subset of people. I think effective security is going to balance protection and usability. And then I think if we're unable to scale crypto and we're unable to make better custody products, we are going to end up with the vast majority of funds centralized in one place at, 3 or 4 custodians, which is not necessarily what we want either, and kind of defeats the purpose of decentralized money. So we'll talk quickly about a couple of security models. I'm not going to spend too much time on these, but what we have today is mostly multi-sig, MPC, HSM. These basically all provide a level of encryption for key shares and distributing the key shares for signing. So you're basically taking your key, splitting it up through some type of like Shamir sharding or another mechanism. You're giving it to a number of different people. They're able to sign. You usually have a quorum. We don't need to spend too much time on this, but a lot of institutions are going to use this. For an individual user, that's impossible. Like, where am I going to put these keys? How am I going to sign it? How many devices do I need? It's just a lot to ask. Long story short, I think passkeys have introduced like a couple new ways we can explore how to make wallets or custody funds better. It allows us to use potentially a YubiKey where you can put your seed phrase there or your private key there. YubiKeys are traditionally used for multi-factor authentication, but it would help reduce the complexity of the first option, which is going to be multi-sig, MPCs, or HSMs. And I think the important thing to note is the new wallets and the new custody products that we make have to essentially challenge the old way that we've been thinking about things. And the old way, essentially, devices need to be completely air-gapped, and then also you need to have like a specific dedicated device for these. Smart wallets, I think, are very interesting. I spent hours in a debate about why passkeys and smart wallets may not work and could work and not work. I think a lot of these are early, but if you can use a device-bound passkey as your wallet or as part of your wallet, I think that it potentially could be a good option. It would make it a lot easier for people to use. And then also, too, the threat model for most people, like, you have to think of the threat model for like a high-profile executive or somebody who's very public-facing or super well-known is very different than what it's going to be for all of you in here. So I think that's another point I'd want to get across is, your security should be as good as what your profile is, and it should be something that you can do. You don't want to make stuff that's too secure that you can't even get back into it. And yes, I've done that more than once. So that's not really like where you want to be. And I think you have to assess yourself and what that should look like to know what you should be using. But I'm excited for the new options that are coming out because obviously what we have today doesn't work. I think it's just about getting to something else that has a really good balance. Couple tips from me on just like wallet security. When like you set up your wallet, you're good to go. You are your own bank. You're doing all the right things. Wanted to call out a couple things you need to stay focused on, which is transaction verification. Always know what you're signing. You should be signing things in ClearSign. If you are not, should start. There's plenty of third-party simulators that you can paste your transaction into and get the right information to verify it. You should be doing that all the time. Diversification, don't keep all your funds in the same place. Have intermediary wallets that you can transact in between. Your hot wallets are likely going to be connected to smart contracts. You don't want to have your entire net worth in that wallet. You want to have whatever you need to do what you do. As what we say, like working for institutions is like just keep what you need to run the business. You can always transfer more in and out as you need. You should also do that at home. Access and approvals is a big thing. Always verify the applications that you are using and check that the transactions you're executing are interacting with the right contract that you would expect it to be. Also, check and revoke your approvals frequently. You don't want to have infinite approvals really at all. And if you can, you only want to approve for certain amounts. Super, super important. I think, in the DeFi space, and there's a lot of hacks that can happen and occur. You might not even know about it. It could be while you're sleeping. If you have infinite approvals out, you could easily have your wallet drained. So just some things to think about there. Let's see, where am I at? Okay. So what does all this mean for retail users? Essentially, it's kind of a lot of the things I already mentioned, but you want to make trade-offs, know what your tolerance is and what your risk appetite is, and just make the decisions that are best for you. If you need help, I know plenty of people who'd be happy to help you. And just remember, too, like custody is hard. Security is even harder. When you think of, I want to be my own bank, think about all the things that could go wrong. Like you want to have an adversary mindset so that you're able to kind of know what you're getting yourself into and know what you're managing. I think a lot of people go into this and they have no idea of all the things that could go wrong. My job all day is to think about what are all the things that could go wrong. And then you think of all the retail users who are custodying maybe millions of dollars at home, not thinking about all the things that go wrong. And then that's like very anxiety inducing for me. I get very worried. But anyway, that's the takeaway there. I have a few more things for you. And I can't stress this enough, actually. This is probably the most important part of this presentation. But you can't be your own bank if you yourself are not safe. So managing the wallet and managing the keys and having that technical expertise and learning about it and all of that is one thing. There's so many other things that are much more important than that. And we'll talk about these. Yeah, keeping yourself safe is really the big thing. So this topic, near and dear to me, I've seen it, I've experienced it, it's everywhere. Physical security is the most important thing when you are in crypto. There's a running list on GitHub of all the physical attacks that have occurred in the space. There's no way it's complete because most of these cases don't even get reported. But of everything that's reported, it's a running list. Shout out to the internet for making that. But recently, a CEO was robbed at gunpoint. Personal and company funds were compromised, essentially. The thing with this is, one, if you are an executive at a company, you should never have access to move funds. You also should never be able to unilaterally send a transaction. That also, depending on who you are, might be a good model for yourself as well. But generally, physical safety and physical threats, more and more, they've increased more and more since crypto has become more retail focused and mainstream. But this goes back to even the super early days when it was just Bitcoin. So getting into it, generally assets can be liabilities. There's a number of different mechanisms that adversaries will go ahead and use: swatting, kidnapping, in-person trades, home or work invasions. I have seen burglaries. I've seen all of these in some way, shape, or form, really in a work setting and in a personal setting. Can even reference a few weeks ago. The fact that anyone still does in-person trades is beyond me, but a few weeks ago, someone wanted to do an in-person trade. I think this was in Singapore. They got ambushed at the mall. It was a whole thing. They scheduled their meetup through Telegram. Never had conducted business with this group before. All to reduce trading fees. Does that sound? I would have rather paid whatever the trading fee was. I'm sure all of you would too. I don't think getting sucker punched in the face because they want to do an in-person trade is I don't know who would choose that. But anyway, getting to the important stuff that I need to tell you before I go over time, and I'll try to leave a couple minutes for questions. We'll talk about really quickly physical security, device management, account management, and international travel. I think in general for all of these, paranoia is policy. Always think like something it might go wrong, head on a swivel, like think about, you just gotta think through all of these scenarios. Like I'm gonna hold crypto at my home. Okay, who knows that I do this? Who knows where I live? Do I post about this on my social media platform? Maybe. Have I made myself a target? Should I be concerned? Do I need better security? Kind of steps like that. And everybody's different, right? Like I love social media. I love like being on Instagram with my friends. I love to post. I'm sure all of you do too. But you can do it in a safe way. So when it comes to physical security, be mindful of what you do in public places. Obviously, don't advertise things that should not be advertised, i.e. I have crypto. I worked for a company at one point. One of our highest net worth users loved to post that he had crypto at the company all the time. Screenshot on Twitter. I was like, can you stop doing this? Please. I would like you to stop doing this. He's like, but, I'm like, there is no but. Like, you're ruining my day. Generally, you don't want to make your locations publicly known. Granted, in the day and age of social media, we do this all the time. But generally, too, I think the things that are most important, situational awareness. You want to be in like a relaxed state, but also paying attention. I think walking down the street on your phone, not looking, not paying attention, I don't recommend for a number of reasons, but also just generally as well. I would not keep your crypto apps or your financial apps on your phone that you walk around in the real world with, especially if you have something to lose. If you don't do anything in crypto, you have $5 and you don't care, cool. If this is something you care about and you have a significant amount of holdings, like, you don't need that. You're not going to go to the bar and trade. I'm just guessing. You probably wouldn't. I wouldn't. So I don't know. Routine. I think this is a hard one for me. I have a routine. I like my routine. It's good to switch it up every now and then, though. You never know who's like paying attention. The key thing: assess your own threat model so you have your own personal security posture. That's really what I do. Is probably not for all of you. What someone else does may or may not be for you. It depends on who they are. Depends on who you are. So really, like, sit down and take the time to like ask yourself those questions. I want to talk about decoy and duress wallets because I hear a lot of people say like, oh, just have a decoy wallet or have a duress wallet. The main point with this is you don't know if it is going to work. Someone who attacks you for your money or what they think you have is not a reasonable person. A duress wallet may or may not save you. How do you know what they will be satisfied with? You don't. So I think I wanted to iterate that because I hear it so much of like, this is such a good thing to do. Maybe, maybe not. You also, from a liability perspective, could be seen as escalating a dangerous situation because you're telling them you have something or giving them access to something. That's a whole can of worms we don't need to open up because I only have a few minutes left. But I just want to iterate that that is not necessarily like, that is not going to protect you in a scenario. Device management, I think the best thing I could say here is like 2FA, MFA, everything that you have. Always keep your stuff up to date. Encrypt your devices. You should be in pretty good shape. Oops, I went too fast. Account management, same thing. 2FA, app-based or YubiKey is best. Use password managers. Enable phishing and spam protection. G Suite has this. I think you have to pay, but it's pretty good, so probably worth paying. Use Google Voice numbers. Also, if you're sending stuff to your house, especially like a hardware wallet or a ledger, use a PO box, use a Dropbox, things like that. You should do that really for any e-commerce stuff and not even necessarily crypto. And then international travel. Obviously, certain countries are friendlier than others. Depending on where you're going, I would leave things you can part with at home, use a VPN, avoid public Wi-Fi, avoid plugging your phone into weird things. And yeah, I think that's it. Do you guys have any questions for me? Thank you so much.
Hey, Katelyn, I got a question for you.
Yes.
So the question is, could you do a super quick compare-contrast of a wallet versus smart contract, just for a whole, like as a individual's hot wallet?
Yeah, so the smart contract is going to be something like a Gnosis safe or something like where you're actually interacting with different protocols. The funds will be stored there because the private keys are actually stored in the contract. Usually those keys may or may not be protected by a multi-sig that could be 2 or 3 people or could be 1 person. Your own wallet is going to be some sort of software and or hardware that you download from something, probably a browser, or you purchase as a actual piece of hardware, and that's going to have a private key that maps back to that wallet, and that's what you use to interact with different on-chain protocols or other wallets. Your regular wallet can interact with a smart contract. Yeah, does that answer the question? Pretty much is good. All right, cool.
So are you familiar with any wallets that exist now for maybe ERC20s that's like a privacy wallet, features with like stealth addresses, or maybe something that's using ZK rollups? There was one that I was using, but they got shut down, Samurai. So do we have anything like that available now?
Yeah, I heard Samurai got shut down. I don't think I'm aware of like anything else lately.
Yeah, because my biggest concern is when you send transactions, people can see everything that you have in your wallet once they have your address.
Yeah.
So is there anything out there that...
I mean, I think I'm not really aware of anything. Also, I think that's going to be hard to do, especially for different, depending on who provides the wallet. If you're talking about like a completely isolate, I just don't know how they would do that without being able to meet certain regulatory requirements. So like a Coinbase or a Robinhood or somebody else probably wouldn't be able to put something out like that. Yeah, no. Okay.
Hi, I'm Calvin. Thank you for the security overview, and props to you for not just saying go buy crypto on Robinhood. My question is about the next generation of wallets, such as Coinbase's, that replaces seed phrases with biometric logins. What would be a good way for, if something happened to you, to have somebody that you want to have access to the wallet with the new type of password? You know, seed phrases are annoying, but then again, if somebody knew where to get the seed phrase from you, they could, you know, get access to the wallet, whereas biometrics, it's not the same.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. The smart wallets are, or what they're actually like calling as smart wallets, they're still going to give you the option to back up your seed phrase. So I think you'd have to bake that into whatever your plan is actually for recovery, and if you wanted it to go to somebody else. I have not had time to look into how like social account recovery may work with smart wallets potentially, and if you could delegate another user, or you could set up there's also, you might be able to do something like pre-signed exit transactions in a way where if an event happens or you haven't logged into the wallet in X number of months or days, it could automatically send your funds to someone else or to a safer place or like a ledger. I think you'd have to do something like that because obviously they would not have your biometrics. And I think if you're dead, you can't use a fingerprint still. So, yeah. Am I out of time? All right, cool. Thank you guys.